Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bluff Creek Project Podcast. I'm Tate Hieronymus. I am one of your hosts, and today we have Jonathan Easley. He is not a member of the Bluff Creek Project, but he is an outsider, which is kind of cool because it's going to give us an outside perspective of what he saw and experienced with us at the film site and at Laos Camp. So, Jonathan, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I've listened to every episode of this podcast, I think, and they've all been great. Got a bunch of quality people in your group, so I was very happy to be out there. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming on. So I got to ask you, Jonathan, it's kind of cool that you have this outside perspective of the project. And you were down at the film site for a couple of days. What did you pick up from when you were down there a little bit? What did you kind of get?
Well, I've been there twice, and the most recent one, I spent the night there, and I really got to explore around and see all the features around there. And by features, I mean things that you just never picture. I walked around this recent time with Robert, and Robert showed me where he believes the original stump was, where Roger and Bob came around the corner. And it gave me a whole new perspective. But talking about that whole new perspective, the first time I showed up to it, it gives you a kind of slaps you in the face, like, oh man, you're really here, and this is actually where it took place. I went down there with Rowdy the first time, and he showed me around. But I should say, a little precursor to this, I went down there the day before by myself and walked that place in circles and couldn't find the film site. It is a very, very thick area now, far from the sandbars that are depicted in the video and that people talk about. There's no roads. There's a makeshift trail that you guys made. And the first time I went down there, I walked down and there were no signs. Turned out that someone shot or took down the signs or something like that, you know? So I walked past it. I went to the bat boxes and took the most savage route you could think of. You know, I was like, I won't walk through the creek, I'll walk above the creek. And that was every step was crunching into 2 or 3 feet of branches. And I didn't find it. So it's pretty thick back there. The next morning I met Rowdy. Rowdy took me down there and showed me all around. And like I said, it's like, wow, you're really there. But one thing that hits you is it's a lot smaller than you think. You know, Roger was filming with, I believe, an old 16 millimeter camera. And, you know, if you remember back when maybe in the 90s, I was a kid in the 90s. You take a picture with a camera and, you know, you look at this like an airplane or something, you take a picture of it, then you get the film developed and you look at it and the plane looks like it's, it looks like it's this little, tiny little dot in the sky. You can't see anything, you know? And
it's so true.
Yeah, it's like I remember being so upset. Everything that was right there in front of you looked so far away. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with the Patterson film. People don't understand how close he was. He was pretty close. If you do a, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 second sprint, you're there. You're there from where he was positioned on that log to where frame 352 is. It's very close. It's a lot closer than I originally thought. And to think that she was even closer at one point when they first came around that bend where the original root ball was, you know, it's pretty neat. And yeah, it's such a neat place. It's such a cool place, and it leaves a real impression on you. Things you see the trees in the background, they look just like they do in the video, and even the light shines through them just the same way it kind of does. You know, and you try to everybody I think has gone there, and the first thing they do is mimic Patty's walk. Everybody's done it. If you've gone there and haven't done it, there's something off about you.
Well, I gotta admit, I haven't done it, but I've walked the path. No,
you walked the path, right?
I've walked the path, but didn't mimic the walk.
Dude, I don't know. That was the first thing I wanted to do. I think Rowdy was talking to me, and I was like, "Oh man, I really want to walk that path." You know, really want, like, I want to see what it was like to be her and look back. And it's a trip, because when you do that, and when you look back, you're like, oh man, like you think Roger was right there looking at Patty, but Patty was right, like Roger was right there, like, and he chased her all that way, you know. So they were both pretty close to each other, and it's just a trip. It was one of that. I have.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just say it's probably one of, oh man, top 5 things I've done in my entire life, and I've done some pretty exciting things, I like to think, and it's just really set an impression on me, and it really stuck with me. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty special place. Not very many people get there because it's so hard to get to, and like even the directions you get are kind of, if you get in and you go by yourself, like you said, they're kind of, it's hard to follow those directions if you don't know the area because it's so overgrown. And yeah, that first part is easy. You go to the berm and you walk down that wide open road trail. Then you get to the trail by the creek. Then that's where you kind of get lost. And you're like, well, where do I go? And where's it at? Because it does not look the same like it did in the 60s or 67, because it's all overgrown now and not washed out. So
exactly, yeah, it's a miracle they found it. And so hats off to all the guys that did that, and set the measurements out, and really prove that that's the actual spot. Because the second time I went down there was just recently, a couple weeks ago. That's where we met, right?
Yep.
And I went down there with a couple friends that I backpack with a lot, and they're not like avid Bigfoot guys, but they have a real interest in it. And I went down there with them, and their whole thing was like, they couldn't believe that we were going to spend the night at the Patterson-Gimlin site. They were so excited, but I was too. I was a little creeped out by it, but I did it. And it kind of taught me something new about, not being such a chicken, I guess. But because I most people I talk to, they won't do it. I think I heard Kip say he wouldn't do it. Maybe
Kip wouldn't do it. I'm kind of tempted not to do it, but at the same time, there's only a handful of people. Like, I can count 5 people on my hand that is camped at the film site. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, at the film site. You guys are the 3 of them. I know Robert is. Bob Titmus, I think, was one of them. So,
which one of the things that I told myself as soon as I set up my tent was, do not think of the Bob Titmus story. Just do not think of it. Oh, because
you did. Oh my God, dude. You should. Do you know that story?
Yeah, I do.
You should tell it.
I think I might skip a few details. I remember when you were going over it, you did a better job. But I
think what happened was Bob Titmus was there, and it was getting dark, and he was like, man, I just got to camp here because I don't know what it was like at the time. I think it was still, there was a road not too far away, but it was still far enough for, I think he wanted to walk in the dark. And so he ended up sleeping at the film site, and he heard something walking around. So I can't remember. I think Robert told me this story, so I might be missing some details too. But from what I remember, the story is, he was like covering himself up with some stuff and sand and all that, and something came around and was like walking around sniffing, and it got angry because it could smell him, but it couldn't find him, and it started like stomping and like smashing and breaking branches. I'm like, dude,
there's no way. Yeah, that's a pretty terrifying one. Like trying to sit there burying yourself in that 64 flood sand, which is really thin, and
then you got this intelligent creature trying to find you. You're like, oh my God.
Like, what's it gonna do when it finds you? Like, that's the basis of every scary part in every scary movie. So I mean, yeah, I tried not to think about that, but yeah, I went down there with Alan and Lewis, and they're good friends of mine. We've done a few cool things. We've done a few cool backpacking trips. We've hiked like Mount Whitney, and we actually went to Area 51 once and like camped below Tickaboo Peak walk to the top, and we got to see the base and all that. So this was kind of another thing for them. Like, oh, we've been to Area 51. Now we're going to the Patterson-Gimlin, film site. Oh, that's crazy. So we went down there, and it gets really dark back there before it's dark. Like, you look up at the trees up on, like, we were looking up toward the berm where I think you were at that night up there.
Yeah, Jamie and I were up there.
Yeah, and we were looking up, and we were like, it's still daylight up there, and it looks pretty dark down here, So, yeah.
I've never been there when it's gotten dark, so it's like I can't really. Is it anything like Last Camp at when it gets dark, or is it like darker than that?
I'd say it's similar to Louse Camp, only that you're like at Louse Camp, you have those large trees kind of around you, but they're not very close. And these are all, the film site are all small trees, very close together. So I think they create like an extra layer of darkness, as opposed to Louse. So yeah, in the same sense that the canyon gets dark earlier, but it also I feel like it gets a little darker than normal just because it has so much coverage and everything's so thick. You can't see through the trees, so it plays games with you,
How does your psyche, I guess, do compared to like Laos? Or do you feel more freaked out camping at the film site than you do at Laos? Or
yes and no, because you got to figure, like, the Patterson film was back in '67, and since then lots of things have happened around that entire area of the forest. But if you just think about it, it's just another area of the forest, like the guys that on this same trip, the rest of the guys from the Bluff Creek Project, some of them, they went down and stayed the night at a place called Scorpion Creek right down the way. Is that any scarier than the Patterson-Gimlin film site? I don't think so. It's kind of the same, but the fact that it happened there, kind of gets inside your head a little bit.
Yeah, it's like this, we're camping in the place where like almost 53, 54 years ago, something walked across where we're sleeping.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was to be honest, I was more worried about the amount of bear and mountain lion that you guys have on camera walking right through there. So,
there is so many mountain lion and bear. I mean, honestly, I'm actually shocked. Like, I saw one bear this trip, and every time I've been up there, I've always seen like 2 or 3 at least. Wow. And I was like, where are all the bears at? I mean, I guess they were there because Jamie said one pushed a tree over when we were camping up at the berm. He's like, oh, yeah, guys, a bear pushed a tree over.
We just missed one.
Oh, you did?
We just missed one. When we were driving in, we were kind of racing against the sunlight, driving to meet Robert at the berm there above the film site, exactly where you and Jamie were camped. And probably the same bear, because we came around the turn, the last sharp left, and as we were coming down, we saw Robert. He took a nice little walk, and I said, "Hey, Robert," and I'm Jonathan. And he was like, "Did you see the bear?" I'm like, no. So we just missed seeing a bear. I haven't seen a bear up there. I've seen like 3 or 4 pieces of scat. Some of them look pretty fresh, but yeah, I haven't seen a bear up there for the amount of bear that's supposed to be up there. I haven't seen one. So yeah, but you guys probably had that same bear push something over that night, right?
Probably like irritated at all of us and stuff, wanted us to leave. I've never seen a mountain lion up there ever. I've only seen bears.
I saw more mountain lion prints than I've ever seen in my life put together from that hike from the Patterson site to it's about a mile and a half up to Scorpion Creek. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'd seen 60 prints. Like, they were all over the place. And we also saw some elk prints. So there's food and there's predators. So all up and down that canyon. So it's a super active canyon because every soft piece of dirt had some sort of, animal print on it.
We went to Laird Meadow after you guys left, and I saw a baby cub, a bear print in the Laird Meadow. And there's some mountain lion print, some deer print. I'm like, this is pretty cool. And it's like, but that whole area is like an amazing place to be in. I'm sure you can agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like a neglected place, that entire area. I guess people just kind of go for tourism. They go to the redwoods or something because I just feel like there's like as beautiful of a place as it is, you don't see the amount of people up there, which is kind of a nice thing.
That's kind of selfishly, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Me
But
too.
it keeps it the population of people down, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask you, because this is the Bluff Creek Project Podcast,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it's possible that Patty in the Patterson Gimlin film is real? And what's your take?
Whew. So, well, when I started off in this whole like venture into Bigfoot, and my interest grew, I thought it was real, but I didn't know why. Like I couldn't tell you why. I mean, I thought it must be real. It's all over the place, right? And then as I dove more into it, you start reading stuff online, and some stuff is true, some stuff isn't. And you start to go, I don't know. Well, there are a lot of questions. You look at things like the thighs, people point at the thighs being baggy. Oh, it must be a costume, right? You see people make all this stuff up about, there's a lot of misconceptions about Roger Patterson's persona, and there's all these stories like I heard he stole the camera from LA. Well, I heard he paid with a check and the check bounced and then he got arrested for it. And it's like they go off on these tangents, kind of vilifying the people. And I mean, there's all sorts of crazy information out there. Some of it is true, or some of it you have to take with a grain of salt. But it made me question it. And I questioned it more and more. And I think I turned into a skeptic for a long time. And I remember adding on to Steven's coalition page on Facebook, and a lot of the things that I was thinking were elaborated on in great detail. They like there's a few posters on there that really know the story inside and out, and they can take a believer and really make you question what you think about it, and vice versa. Like if once you start learning about the story, you really start to try to make sense of it all. There's so much information, and you have to stop and analyze like every little thing about it. And I kind of I tried to, it took me years, and for years I was a real skeptic of it. I was a real skeptic of it. And it wasn't until last year where I sat down and not to advertise another podcast on this podcast, but it's actually a great resource, and I highly encourage anybody who is both believers and skeptics to check out this. It's called the Astonishing Legends Podcast, and they have a 7-part Patterson Gimlin series. And
I think I listened to that once.
Oh man, you don't have enough life to listen to it again. Like each episode is like 2 hours and change. And the amount of information that they provide there, like they don't sit there and there's no fluff. Like they get right down to the information. There's a point where I think they talked about just the Kodachrome film that Roger used and the details of how it worked, where it came from, where you could purchase it, and all this stuff. They talked about just the film for 2 hours. There's not one detail that they didn't cover extensively. They even had Bill Munns on, and I listened to that, and it slowly turned me, like each episode, into a believer. And by the time I was done, I had already like sent messages out like, we got to go to Bluff Creek. I got to get up there. I had a few days off and a little bit of money, and whenever those two happen, I usually end up Bigfooting. So I listened to that, and that totally changed my perspective on it. There's just too many things that you run into that you can't explain away. And when you look at you really take a look at it, you look at the anatomical features. Like I said, I'm an MRI tech, so I look at anatomy all day long, and I enjoy looking at how anatomy, works kind of in unison, I guess. And when I look at Patty, one of the things that jumped out at me that I haven't heard talked about too much is her calf muscle is very low. If you look at it, And I've read, after I read Legend Meets Science, it gave me a new understanding of, Dr. Meldrum's explanation of the mid-tarsal break. Then that thick, low calf muscle would make total sense with it if she's pushing off more with just the front half of her foot, as opposed to us humans. We have a high calf muscle and push off with just the palms of our feet. So there's little things like that I notice. And yeah, it's pretty neat. The fact that no one can even come close to recreating a suit.
Yeah. And it's been with the technology now, it should be much easier.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
You think that they would try, I'm sure they have, but they just couldn't do it. And you said you're MRI tech, so you kind of used to looking at anatomy. She walks I was talking to Ian Carton, who was out there that this past trip when we were all there. And the last day, it was just him and I, and we were kind of talking. She walks kind of pigeon-toed. And not only that, but she's not. When a human walks, they have their leg is all like straightened out. What's the word for that? Not hyperextended. But anyway, just to make more things confusing, she walks kind of pigeon-toed, and her legs are kind of bent the whole time. They're never out straight.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I wonder how much of that attributes to walking in thin sand. Like we didn't see her walk on hard ground, so there's a little bit of difference maybe in that. But yeah, it is weird. It is if you like really look at how her legs extend, and by the time she's taking one step, the back foot is picking up
90 degrees.
Yeah, the gait is different than a human's. Like I think I saw this video of Bill Munns trying to walk. I think it was Bill Munns, or maybe Grover Krantz. Somebody trying to walk like Patty, and it looked kind of funny. But
was it Bob Hieronymus trying to do it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't your Uncle Bob. No, I'm just No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't him. He was like somebody walking on a table, and I saw it posted on the Coalition page, but. It was kind of funny looking, but when he does it, he looks like he's trying so hard to walk that way. And, when
that it doesn't natural.
It's just totally natural. Yeah. There's the
I was going to
say,
the
swing of the arms.
To hoax that in a costume would be damn near impossible, man. I mean,
well, you don't just need a costume. You need a costume that makes footprints. So now you're faking footprints and you're faking.
And calf muscles and everything too, because you can see muscle movement, I guess, on the film is, it's visible there and in the calf and in the back and everything. And when she does that turn to look at the camera and doing that walk, that's a talented person right there.
The toes move, the toes pick up when she steps forward. The hands, the fingers clench a little bit. They move. Yeah, it's just I don't see how someone could fake it. It's too impossible. Either it's the real deal or a rodeo cowboy made the best costume to date. And a rodeo cowboy made this. I've seen people make their own suits and say, "Oh, look, this is they make their own, heads and arms, and they say, see, it's possible, but we don't see a recreation. I'm waiting for the recreations.
It's funny. I look at Comic-Con every year. I don't go. I've never been to one, but you see photos because I have a lot of friends that go. And then the things people can make and how great they can make a costume look baffles me, but they cannot recreate that costume from 1967. It doesn't make sense to me. And people make costumes all the time, and there's some amazingly talented people.
Exactly.
But still, they cannot do it.
Yeah. A suit that would make footprints that could fool a PhD whose specialty is, deciphering a gate, the gate. It's too To me, it's too hard to fake. It's too hard. It comes down to that. It's too hard to fake. And people want to hang on details like how he was able to ship the film out. There's like a timing discrepancy, and people get so hung up on things like that. And well,
I mean,
you
regardless
look
if
at
the film is fake or real, I mean, I don't think that's. I mean, it's very important for the researching the film, but it doesn't make
exactly.
me believe it any less or more.
And one thing that always got me too, that I didn't really find out until I listened to that, Astonishing Legends podcast, was that people came down to debunk him. Roger didn't just run away and show his footage up in Washington or something like that. He actually called, Al Hodgson, and spread the word, and they came down and they all looked at it for themselves. He didn't hide it, which is another thing that I think it's kind of a big thing. And it's kind of, when you look at the whole Bigfoot, I don't know what to call it, the whole subject of Bigfoot,
The phenomenon,
the phenomena, I guess. People claim all these videos, all these films. Like I've seen. I just the other day, a couple weeks ago, I saw some film that looked like it was filmed on a FLIR, and I think the BFRO released it, and it was just something kind of walking away, and it looked pretty interesting. But that's all it is just a film. Well, when you film something, there's two sets of data. There's the data that's in front of the camera and the data that's behind the camera. There's a story to it, and there's people filming, and there's things that happened before that, and how did it start, and that's just important as what's on the film itself. Too many times I think we just see some blurry film walk over, some blurry film, and they just release it, and there it is, that's it, and there's no follow-up, and there's no, and that's it.
And I think
that's not what Patterson did.
No, and it just sucks nowadays because, I mean, I believe there's like Bart Catino got a pretty good thermal video, and then I showed you the one that I got. Mm-hmm. There's other people that get real videos of something that they didn't fake, but nowadays people are just more skeptical than ever about it already.
Exactly.
And then
yeah.
I remember,
and they should be.
Yeah.
I appreciate everyone's skepticism. I love showing things to people that are complete skeptics, because if something can withstand, complete skepticism and still survive, like that means it's real. You know what I mean? That's what the Patterson-Gimlin film has done.
No, it's no, like, if any film was to go that long undebunked or not debunked or proven or disproven, then you got something there, or it's either real or you're either the best hoaxer in the world.
By far the best hoaxer in the world. Like, there's no, like, I'll give you a good example. Paul Freeman's now it's 92 footage. Apparently we're learning.
Was it 92?
Yeah,
did they say it was 93 or 90? I thought it was 92.
It's 90. It was listed as 94, I think, in Dr. Meldrum's book, and everybody thought it was 94. But now I think I saw a few like new news reports that claimed that said it was actually in 92. And I think there was a segment on the news in 1992 about it. And I don't know how the dates got mixed up or whatever. I was just a small boy back then, but yeah, I don't know how the dates have it, but that's a good example right there. I mean, he's got this thing on camera walking, and he's got these footprints, and what else came of it? Did he cast those prints? Did he do a recreation? Do we know how tall this thing is? There's people say, oh, it picks up a little one, and I don't know if he said that, but there was no follow-up investigation. There's nothing. It's just a piece of blurry film. That's it. And I want you to contrast that with what I believe is the second greatest piece of Bigfoot film is Bart Catino's Sierra thermal footage.
Yeah.
And I got to do something really cool. I finally read oh man, when I first started in this, there was a lot of people that I wanted to meet, bounce ideas off of, and talk to. And the more I got into it, the shorter and shorter and shorter that list got, and I think it got down to like 3 people or something like that. And out of those, few people, Rowdy was one of them that I wanted to meet, and Ranger Robert Lederman was someone I wanted to meet, and I got to meet him. And that first night, it was so cool. We stayed up till maybe, I want to say 2:30, almost 3 a.m. And I got to just pick his mind over what happened up there and in his recreation. Because for those that don't know, Bart Catino shot some thermal footage in the Sierras. I think he was a guest on your guys' podcast, right?
Yeah, I think we talked a little
episode.
bit about it. I loved that one. It was so much fun to do.
Me too. Well, he's always good to listen to. And he was up there and he shot some thermal footage, and it's blurry. And at one point you see something looks like it's stepping. Now, if he just released that, I would have been like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. Like I said, there's 2 sets of data. There's what's filmed and what's kind of behind the lens and what happened and what surrounded the incident. And I think that's a good measure of proof that if you really follow up and you really
do your research on it.
Do your research on it. Yeah, you can. It can be more than just blurry footage. He went back there with your old co-host there, Kip, and he wasn't tall enough. I think Kip was like 6'3" and had to stand on an ice chest. I think Kip was the closest.
Yeah, he was the closest one to being tall enough.
And if I remember, he had to stand on an ice chest. So
yeah, he still wasn't tall enough.
Yeah, and so I got to ask Robert a lot about that and all the conclusions that he came to, and it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. That's why I say it's right behind the Patterson-Gimlin film as far as evidence goes. I think it's a really neat thing
too. Like the Patterson-Gimlin film has been researched by so many people that it's crazy. It's probably one of the most researched, and try to see what actually happened of Bigfoot film. And Bart Catino's is up there with the extensive research that has gone to the sighting that he's had. I'm like, geez. And it's crazy. But not only that, but it's one thing if you're a random person that has no idea who that is that releases a film, I feel like you'd be more skeptical. But if you know the person personally, I think I tend to believe them more, especially if you know what kind of person they are. If they're like, they don't really BS, or they wouldn't do that. And then
which is important.
Very professional.
Yeah, like he's actually on that very short list of people I'd one day want to meet and talk to someday. But another example, like, okay, I've never met him, but I know all about his thermal footage and that whole incident. I actually went up there to take a look at it, and I've been there, and it's same thing as the Patterson film, where like you stand there and you go, oh man, like even though he was filming with a flare, you don't get depth perception as well as you do with the camera, with a regular daylight regular camera. He was really close. I think I took like, oh man, if you ran for 3 seconds, you'd be right there where the squatches were, right there, right in that little tree in between those stumps. It's right there. Like he wasn't far away like it kind of looks like on his footage. He was really close. And it's once you go to these places and you see them for themselves, it gives you a new perspective. But also, like, I've never met him, and I've never met Roger Patterson, but I know a lot about Roger Patterson. I think everybody does, because everyone, once they dove into the film itself, the film is a film, but okay, how did it happen? Who filmed it? All that stuff's important. And both of those films, they both come out, and I think in positive light.
Yeah, that's something I was trying to do with my film, the one that I got. But like, again, it's so hard to tell people because people are always going to be skeptical, and it's kind of annoying. But it's just,
well, like when I took a look at that thermal you had, and I'll say, like, if you just release that out there and just put it out there, it's like there's nothing to feel strong about. There's nothing to go, oh, that's definitely one, or but you can see some stuff. Looks like it gets up and looks like there's an arm swing, and it looks pretty neat. But had I not known you, had I not listened to you, I probably would have written it off. But the fact that I know you, I talked to you, I know what you're about, I
See,
know
that's
probably
exactly what I was
wouldn't do.
saying. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
exactly what I was saying. Like when you know the person, you kind of get a sense of who they are and what they're kind of about, you know.
Hmm.
And I think we know one person. You know him, but I don't. I'm not going to say a name.
Uh-huh.
But he's kind of. You don't know if he's messing with you or if it was actually real. I think we know what's going on.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I got well.
Mhm.
Speaking of like encounters and stuff that people have had, this will go into another question too.
All
But
right.
the question now is, would you ever actually really want an encounter like that you're for sure like, oh my God, this is really happening? Like
Yeah.
it's undoubtable
Yes.
that you know what's going on.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. And you see, and this also, I'll tie it back into the Patterson film because it does. Like when I first got into this, I went up to the Sierras. I'll leave it at this. I had a very questionable sighting that till this day, I don't know what I saw. Um, Half of me goes, there's no way it could have been somebody. And the other half goes, well, there were some questionable people around, which nowadays I really question the character of some of them. And you don't know some of them. And it was, if they did something extremely crazy, it back then when that happened, I was not prepared for any of this. I was not prepared for it. You're not psychologically prepared for an encounter.
Nope,
You're out there
nope.
maybe for an experience. You're out there to
Or
see what happens.
you're like, yo, let's just go find out, and then you don't, and then bam,
Yeah, let's
like
just go check this out. And then something happens like that and you don't know what to make of it. You weren't prepared. You don't have now, after that happened, you develop this kind of fire, this like hunger, and you're like, dude, I
yeah,
got to go record something. Once you hear
yeah,
your first like questionable sound out there where you're like, you can't explain it. Um, you kind of get this little fire under your belly, and you want to get out there, and you're in record mode. You want to go out there and collect some sort of evidence. I start walking and I really hope one jumps out at me or something like that. It's a scary thought, but
yes.
if you're the dude that gets to film one like that, you're gold. That's it. And I was reading a little bit of Christopher Murphy's book. One of the things he talks about actually in the very beginning was Roger Patterson was psychologically prepared, and he kind of elaborated on it. And I thought it was a really neat it was only like a paragraph, but Roger Patterson believed these things were real. He didn't doubt it. He's heard he hadn't seen one, but he heard dozens of stories. He had them recorded on his cassettes and all, and he was in full belief that these things were out there and real. And when he saw one, he wasn't in shock. Most people would go into shock. Most people would go into fight
Dude,
or flight or
that's literally, I was like fight or flight, shock, and extreme happiness at the same time when I got that therm.
Mhm.
I was like, I wasn't prepared for it. Like you're saying, you go out and you're not expecting anything, and then all of a sudden something happens. You're like, you get that urge. I totally get that.
Yeah. And so after that, it's like, okay, now you're going out and you're justifying to the wife why you're spending all this money on technology to go find Bigfoot. But that's what you're doing, you know what I mean? You're all saving up all this money, and you know, but hopefully it all pays off one day. Um, but
Not to mention, those toys are fun to like. Those kind of things are cool to buy, and they're kind of fun to mess with. I'm not gonna lie.
they are very fun to mess with. But how often do you get out into the field? How often do you go out there into like, spots you want to go to see? For some people it's twice a year. Some people it's 3 or 4 times. I've kind of worked at this new job for a year and a half, and I've been a little hamstrung as far as vacation time and stuff. But I haven't gone in, and I got a new baby and stuff like that. She's 1 now, but it's then COVID hits, and it's just
Just
I
life
haven't been out
happens.
there. Yeah, I haven't gone out there and hit these spots as much as I've wanted to. uh I can't justify a $7,000 thermal, even 5,000 or whatever they cost, thermal imager, that's going to record a crystal clear Bigfoot. So now you're going out there and we're working with inferior equipment, and which
I
brings
can
it around
only.
to,
It's like I can only afford a $500 FLIR. I can't. There's things I need to pay for and stuff. I can't be buying a $4,000, $5,000 pieces of equipment like you said. I'm
yeah, I'm
like,
trying to pay off debt here.
hey, not all of us were on TV, guys. We don't. TV doesn't pay for our stuff.
Yeah.
I'm mainly picking on
Yeah.
Cliff and Bobo and
Yeah.
Matt.
Maybe we can have some of their stuff kicked down to us one day, but not
like
I don't
hand me
know, man.
down,
That stuff's
like hand me
expensive.
downs.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, we got to start a system here, guys. Okay, you guys get
Yeah,
new stuff and bring it on down to us, but
I like that. That's a good
it
idea.
goes
We
down the
should,
chain. It goes down the chain.
because they get new stuff, we get their old stuff, and then just like you said, goes down the chain.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
Jonathan, oh sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, people think, oh, why haven't we filmed? Why don't we have more footage? Well, this is exactly why, because you got a bunch of me's and you's going out there and just trying our best. Our best hopes are, things like finding Bigfoot, where they do implement the technology and they do have the high tech thermal imagers, that are gonna see long range or whatever. And we don't, as Joe Schmoes, we don't have all that stuff. We have to save up for it. So how many people? Ask yourself, like, think about it. How many people have access to this stuff? Put in the time, go to the right places, or at the right place at the right time. Like, all of those factors have to, they have to
Factor,
mesh
yeah.
for it to actually happen. And like, we can only go out there so many times. So yeah, until we get more people, technology is luckily getting cheaper and cheaper. Hopefully one day it catches up to where it's almost there. It's almost there. You got some, like, the $500, the what do you have, the Scout?
This TK, yeah, the Scout
Yeah.
TK.
But I mean, it's just a few years ago. I remember being in college, like, what, 2000, this was in 2007 or something like that. And I remember the trainer there when I was playing soccer going, he was investing in Apple, and he's telling me, they're going to come out with a phone. And I was like, get out of here. An iPod that's a phone? Like,
You're
I
on
think
crack.
the exactly, yeah. I remember when, like, the Razor came out, the phone, and you'd flip it, and it took like
Those things are
a
cool. My
worst
dad had one of
pictures.
those.
Yeah, you can actually open beers with them if you the little back panel.
Seriously?
They were good for that. Yeah, I got pretty good at it for a while. But
That's
that's what they were.
awesome.
That was better than the camera function. Like, it's not till recent times that we have. If you've tracked the camera technology, like, look what Patterson used and look what Freeman used. I don't know how real that footage is, but I'm just citing the time. You have the big, America's Funniest Home Videos style camera that goes over your shoulder. It's like a big block on your shoulder. Like, who really goes out into these wilderness areas? Who really went out to these wilderness areas
With cameras
with
like
that
that.
type? Exactly. That's the only way you can film. So, you know, it's not until recent time, I'd say past, what, 10, 15 years, that we have access to handheld cameras that are
Even
going
your
to
phones
do that.
nowadays are like better cameras than some cameras you can buy at the store, like that are
Yeah.
meant to be a camera.
I remember when I met my wife back when we were, like, dating and stuff, we'd go out to, like, places, and, like, there was no cell phone camera. We just take pictures. We would buy our camera, at the store. It was like $100+, and it was like a 12 megapixel camera, and you put your chip in it. It was like the new thing. And until, like, even then, it's like that's what people were using. So, you know, people try to make the argument, oh, well, everybody has a cell phone with the camera on it. Yeah, but that's only been going on for, what, 10, 15
15
years,
years,
and
give or
we're
take.
talking about, an extremely elusive creature. And, like people go out there and like you said, like how many pictures do you have of a bear?
Yeah.
Do you have any pictures? Like it
and
always
that's
happens
like you're
too
saying,
quick.
yeah, that's like you're saying. And that's why a lot of pictures are blurry. I believe the blurry pictures are definitely more, well, I don't say they're real, but I tend to believe they're a little bit more legit because you think about it. I mean, who's going to walk around in the forest with their phone in their hands ready to go with the camera on?
Other than Bigfooters, because I think I was walking around like that.
Other than Bigfooters. But like nobody does that. And like it seems like a lot of people, excluding Bigfooters, get photos of these things and they're all like, if they're too clean or everything, I feel like it's too well done or like it's staged. But yeah, you just don't expect it. And you're like, I get my phone out real quick from my pocket and take a picture. But that's why it seems that's why a lot of photos are blurry and stuff, where people are just seeing things. So now, Jonathan, I'd have to ask you this too. Before I met you, I think it was this year. Last year. It wasn't this year. Or when did you released a video? Tell me on the day, then I'll tell you when for sure. I'm confused. You released a video of your trip to Louse Camp the first time, and you caught something strange on your audio. What year was that? Did you release that last year?
That was last year. Yeah, I went there last, I want to say August or something like that, or September. I went over there. It was my first time up there. And we camped the entire time at Louse Camp. And, I'm sure everybody that has been there would agree Louse Camp is an awesome place. And one of the things that was cool about it was when we got there, the creek was like, I've never heard a creek talk that much. It was like I was walking to different parts on the creek and you can hear like pop songs that you've never heard before, like these melodies being sung. And people talk about, joke around. They were saying about like, oh, it's the Bluff Creek sirens, they lure you in. But you hear that creek was making so many sounds. It sounds like you could sit there around the campfire and you can hear like an argument going on. I mentioned it in my video.
This year was the first time that I actually heard talking from the creek.
Really?
I was like, this year, there's people talking over there. And I was like, there's no one there.
And I mentioned to Rowdy, I said, this time that I came here, I go, the creek isn't talking like at all almost compared to last time. I guess it depends on water level and, time of year or something like that. But
it's gotta.
But that creek makes a lot of sound, right? So it's not uncommon that you're like walking around camp and you're hearing this like argument. And I say in my video, at one point you wouldn't be surprised if you looked over and saw like 6 kids playing in there. Like that's what it sounded like. Like you'd hear kids yelling and screaming and having fun, and then you look and there's nobody there. And it's not like a ghost thing. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about it's a natural thing. I think what it is, how'd I say it in my video, it's a natural occurrence where it's the way our ears interpret the sound. Like it's your brain's trying to make sense when
because it is sound, like in a bowl type environment too.
Yeah, so it's reflecting off of two sides, off of a steep cliff, and then it's a kind of a downhill from the fire ring. So you have a little bit of a canyon there, and then around you it's a bowl. So stuff's bouncing all around. But it's the way our ears are just made, our brains I should say are made to interpret voice and language, and when you hears the babbling of the creek, it tries to turn it into something, I guess, and it really messes. And you try to record it and it doesn't work. It just sounds like the creek.
Yeah.
So I was up there, and it was the last day. We were about to leave, and I want to start off by saying, many times you see in this subject that people get something and they get nothing, I should say, and try to turn it into something. They get this little blip of something, they try to elaborate on it, and but this isn't one of those cases. Like, this really left me kind of scratching my head, and there's reason for it. And we were all packing up. I think Rowdy was loading his truck. He had a friend with him named Greg, and everybody was kind of loading it up and walking in the same general vicinity. I would say no one was like, more than 20 feet away from each other. And I can see Jeff and Rowdy having a conversation. And as I hit record, I was doing this little I was in selfie mode on my phone, and I had it propped up on a stand. I hit record and took a few steps back, and I started talking, and I flubbed the lines. I walked up, I stopped it, and actually hit record again, walked back, said the lines clearly. And when I was editing later, I was like, both of those clips are no good. I don't like the way I talked. I didn't like the audio. When I was listening to it, I heard this, I don't know, this kind of yell. And I went, oh, that sounds like, Jeff that was there. Maybe. He's the only one with a husky voice. Like, there was no way, I don't think Rowdy could ever make that sound of voice. His friend Greg was like not into Bigfoot at all. I don't think I think he like saw the Patterson film like years ago, and he was a really cool guy. He just like not too much into Bigfoot. Like, he wouldn't do like a yell. So that just left Jeff, but you can kind of hear him having a conversation in the background. So I asked all of them, I said, did you guys do this weird yell? And when you listen to it on headphones, it doesn't make sense to what you would think a person that close would sound like, which we later replicated, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to give too much away, but I think we found a spot that you really liked and I thought sounded close.
Yeah, like so I kind of asked my friend Jeff in a weird way, like, hey, did you hear anything? Did you do anything? And he was like, I didn't do anything else. What are you talking about? And so I finally told him, I said, look, I have this yell, and I sent it to him. I sent it to Rowdy. Rowdy said, well, it could be one of us. I'll ask my friend Greg. And it was all no's. But I think talking to Rowdy's kind of set on, hey, it could be just one of us goofing around, but he's still open-minded. You listen to it on headphones, it really sounds strange. It sounds like I don't know what it is. It could be some sort of weird animal call. I don't know. I'm not gonna say what it is because I didn't see what it was, and I can't I'm not gonna make something up. But it's just this quick yell, and I've been scratching my head about it. I did a really good breakdown of it on my video, and if you watch the video, you'll see why I kind of left me scratching my head. And this time when we went up, I decided we're going to do a yell from the same spot. And when we did that yell, I feel like it was the easiest to eliminate.
Because it was so loud.
But not only that, but the clarity in my voice from that standpoint, from where the people in camp were it was just too, my voice was super clear. There was no reverberation to it. It didn't sound like it was far away at all. But when we did a yell from the very end of camp, where Notice Creek kind of merges with Bluff Creek, the north end of Laos.
Well, we did two. Yeah. We did two we did one at one end and one at the other end. But
we also did some in the creek.
Yeah. We had one by the trail. We did one on the creek. The one you're talking about there was a little camp spot where a tent would go. Then there's like a little opening trail back there where Notice Creek is. Mm-hmm. That's where you did that call.
We did that yell. We did it into the creek, and then we did it toward camp. And the one toward camp seemed to be pretty close in volume and reverberation. And the only thing that didn't match was the power. Like it sounds like a quicker yell, I should say. Yeah. And if you listen to the sound of my video, it's a big sound, so I don't know. It left me scratching my head, and
it was super distinct, that one though. Like, I remember you and I both looked at each other like, dude, that's it.
When we heard that, we were like, yeah, my eyes lit up like, that's it right there. That's it right there. And we're talking about the yell from the most northern part you could stand at Laos camp before it drops off into the creek, which there were no other humans around.
Or if there was a human, there had to be bushwhacking in there. which I
Yeah.
don't think would be the
Yeah.
possible
And
reason.
you can hear cars come in because there was one person that drove in, and about a minute before they arrived in camp, I said, I hear a car. When Rowdy came in too, about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes before, I could hear his truck. But yeah, we heard no cars, no visitors, no people. And there's this yell. The people are standing at camp. When I recreated the yell, standing where the people were at camp, it didn't sound even close to the same. And another thing I did, I ran the audio waves, and the audio waves were completely different. One of the things that with this particular sound was it was loud. It was just as loud as my voice was, but the audio wave didn't show up. The audio wave is very, very, very small. Every time I was trying to mess with it, trying to get like more reverb, just trying to make it out more, see what I can do. And it just, it wouldn't do anything to it. The only thing manipulable was the sound of the creek. When I did the same yell from the same spot, it showed up huge on the audio wave showed up huge on, and I can do anything I want to. I can manipulate it any way. I can add reverb. I can do all the things that I should be able to do to the other sound. So I don't know, like I was telling people, like if it was somebody in camp, so be it, if you're not looking for the truth, and if you want something to be something so bad that you'll deny whatever whatever information makes it not that, then you're not doing it right. The ultimate search is for the truth, and if you're debunking yourself, that's fine. It's a learning process, and that's cool with me. Like I told you, I said it is what it is. I would like it to be what it is. It's the truth, and if it's somebody in camp, it's somebody in camp, and if it's not, well then so be it. But yeah, we're from last thing I heard about it, somebody was supposed to take a good listen to it and try to see if it was like within human range, and an audio expert out there, I guess, that works with, maybe I think Bobo sends them stuff. So we'll see what comes of that. If something does, I'm still waiting to hear back. I sent it like just less than a week ago, so I'm not holding my breath on it. But you know, people have lives and stuff. But we'll see what comes of it. It's I invite everybody to take a listen to it. It's on Western Bigfoot Exploration on YouTube. That's my YouTube channel.
I'll put a link in the description when we post this on YouTube too. So
Thanks, and
there'll be a link to that.
yeah, sweet. But yeah, and by the time this posts, my second video should be up. There's a great amount of information with like Robert Lederman describing all that I said earlier about that original stump. And it shows the film site in detail. It shows us camping there, and it really, man, we went on such an adventure last time. That's one thing I'm really just happy about. We went on like going up and down that creek. It was really cool. We had a lot of fun. Great time.
And you guys camped at Scorpion. How was that?
We didn't camp at Scorpion, but we walked up there in the morning. So we woke up, hiked about 1.5 miles, and it's all walking through the creek. Like there's very little like rock you can walk on. So I think I ate it once. Alan, my friend, ate it once, but walking up there it's so crazy. Like, I mean, there's spots where the water's like baby blue. The plants are a bright green, so they contrast each other, and it's like, I think one of the comments on my video was like, you must have bumped up the saturation on this, when I was showing the color of those creeks, that those creeks get back there. Like, no, I
They're
didn't.
so
That's
blue or
natural.
something.
Yeah, it's so beautiful back there. And there's if you look hard, you really pay attention. We saw a little bit of remnants of like, old logging. We saw like these little 2x4s, little kind of like pallets wrapped around a tree, tied by some wire, which that must have been done decades ago. When we got to that little Scorpion Creek, we met up with Ian, Robert, and Rowdy. And my friend Alan, he's a great outdoorsman. He had all the ingredients for a beef stew, and if you ask those guys how it was pretty awesome. We made a little fire, cooked it, had the best beef stew ever, and then we hiked on back. But man, what a beautiful place! That's a beautiful, beautiful creek.
Yeah, Rodney showed pictures of that beef stew. I was like, dude, that looks awesome. And you guys cooked it old school with like this. Was it like the stick hung over the fire and you hung the can on the stick over the fire? Like that's super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, pot over the fire. We cooked it for about an hour. So
Dang,
yeah, it was really good. But
sounds so good.
yeah, pretty awesome stuff. But yeah, it was quite the adventure. I got to see so much more. Like last time I went, it was more of like an introductory thing to me, like this is this, that's that. This time it was like, well, I want to get in there, I want to camp there. I want to, walk up that creek as far as I can. And we were looking for prints and, it's when people say, oh, did you find Bigfoot? I was like, well, you're looking for prints, but it's so cool to find cougar prints. And one of the things that they found were elk prints, right?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things they found was elk prints,
Yeah, it was
something
pretty
like
cool to
that.
think that there's elk. You guys haven't had elk on your cameras,
It
at least
is. It's
not at the Patterson site cameras, right? As far as I know.
yeah. I'm not sure. I have to ask, but it's pretty intimidating to know there's elk out there. I'm more afraid of elk and bear, and well, more elk and mountain lion, bear last. I just don't want
Yeah,
to.
man.
I just don't want to die. Period. Out there.
There's so many
But
ways to die. There's so many ways.
I hope the way I die out there, if I die out there, I hope it's quick and
Death by
painless.
Squatch.
That if it's quick and painless, I don't want it to last. I don't want to be eaten alive. That's just a terrible way to go.
Yeah. Somebody told
So
me like this about this epic wall of missing people up in Humboldt as I was like driving up there.
there's a
Like
wall.
there's like a gas station, I guess, someplace or at a rest stop. And it's actually my friend from one of my friends, he was telling me, he goes, dude, there's this rest stop, and he goes, the entire wall is covered with like missing people. I'm like, oh crap.
What in the world?
Yeah.
That's a little freaky.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
But oh well. Hope they. I mean, not to downplay that they're missing. I'm the same, like
Yeah.
you probably know what I mean.
But it kind of, yeah, it puts it in perspective for you. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to this place. We're looking for 7 foot tall monkey men, and there's a bunch of missing people up here.
Game on.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how intimidating squatching is. I mean, I think you and I talked about it. It's pretty intimidating sometimes,
Hmm.
especially
Yeah.
at night. It's another ball game, going at night.
Yeah. I think it's once you fully accept like that Bigfoots exist, you start to think, okay, well, if these things are out here and you're doing calls or whatever you do, some people do, some people don't, but you're waiting for something to come in to camp and spy on you. Like that's the
Yeah,
goal, and to think that like what's really cool, like people have been successful at it. People have had, weird footage or have seen weird things come into camp and stare at them. I was listening to Bobo's, podcast with you guys at Laos, and he was talking about like a skinny one he saw walking around Laos. And then I've seen the a video of him talking about one that was kind of standing there in the shadows, and you can see the silhouette, and it's pretty gnarly.
dude.
It's something I'm definitely working on with myself. I'm pretty honest about it. I'm trying to get better and better about navigating in like pitch black out there.
I'm not. I'll be honest. I've told you too. I have no shame in admitting. Like I'm actually terrified of the dark. Like I'm like Kip. I will not go in the dark alone unless I'm in my car. I'll go alone in my car, but I'm not gonna go walking around alone in the
And
dark.
back home here, like I've started. Oh man, too many. I want to say like I've gotten out of work, went home, packed a backpack, gone up to the mountains, and I think I hiked like an hour and change in the dark with just a headlamp, And it's fine. You know, all I'm more worried about, even up there, I'm more worried about a mountain lion going, just snatching me up or something. I'm not so
Yeah.
much worried about, Bigfoot. Like, you only, like, yeah, it's, I'm worried about, the mountain lions. They're, predators of the dark. So they masters
That's
of their
like,
own domain.
that's kind of like, I think that's more of the reason I'm afraid is because, I think you tend to be a little more afraid of what you don't know is there than what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I'll put it this way: lions are pretty scary,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're
A
like
little bit.
even, they don't really scare me as much. But you don't really see mountain lions during the day so much. It's more at night, and that's the reason I don't like the ocean, swimming in the ocean, because there's sharks. I can't see them. I don't know where they're at.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
what you
lions are the
don't know
same way.
scares you more than it's there. Yeah. Well, I guess you get better and better at it over time. But
We're all learning. I'm learning, especially, but it's whatever. So,
yeah, man.
so Jonathan, I think we're coming up on an hour. I think it's been a great hour. We managed to fill one, so that's awesome.
That's good. Yeah. Originally started, how are we going to fill an hour? Now I can't believe it's here already.
You're like, how are we going to fill this hour? Though we got it done. Any last words of advice for anybody wanting to get into Bigfoot research?
Go prepared to see nothing. Like, I think there's like this, even when you like put out a video or something like that, people are like, well, that's it. We didn't see Bigfoot. We didn't see him. Or people, what I get a lot? Like the few coworkers that I do tell, they'll be like, so did you see Bigfoot? Like, nope. I'm like, that's not what I went for though. Like, in the end, you just end up camping. Like,
I think
spoiler alert for my video. When you watch my video, we didn't see Bigfoot, but we saw a few interesting things, but we went on this epic adventure, and that's what it comes out there for. And I think Rowdy worded it really in a neat way. He said, you don't go out there for, the evidence or the footage. You go out there for an experience.
Yeah,
And
Kip
you
said
go out
one
there
is
and
like,
have,
it's not the journey, it's the destination. No, it's not the destination, it's the journey. There it is.
Yeah. It's well said. So like, if anybody's getting into it, and also look for, if you're trying to get into this, there is a lot of stuff. When I first got into it, I went down all of us have gone down the Bigfoot wormhole, and there is a lot of, I'd say 99% of it is just absolute junk. And there's these, I thought everybody was going to be like, these, like the Bluff Creek Project, very well organized and, some go-getters. And it turns out most people just park on the side of the road, go and film a 30-second video of nothing and walk back in their car and show you some weird stick structures, and that's it. And it's not, so be prepared to just go out there, have a good time. You're probably not going to find or see anything. And if you do, that's like a 1 in a million find.
No, yeah.
It's just dumb luck. So be prepared for that. And there's a lot of cool people out there that are doing the right thing, at least what I consider are the right things. And look into what those people are doing, where they're going, and some of them are really nice people that are open to share their ideas. I could talk to Robert all day, and I'm sure he can, as we found out, he could talk too. How he could also talk all day too. That dude is one of the most, I gotta say, I love that about him. He's one of the most passionate people I've ever talked to about not just Bigfooting, but not just Bigfoot, but the forest in general. Like, he
And
loves
he's so knowledgeable
out there.
too.
So knowledgeable. We didn't read everything. You'll see it in my video. This one it should be out by the time this is aired, right? It says you'll see on my way down, he's just constantly explaining things to me. I'm going, oh, look at that, and he knows everything about it. The plant. We ran into this spittle bug, and it's just really cool. It was a real treat to talk to him.
I totally feel safe with him too in the woods. Like, he makes me feel more comfortable. Like, he's the one that helps me at night when we're going squatching, because every time I'm squatching, I'm with him somehow or another. But he has a good way of making you feel at ease.
He was even showing me like the way that thermals can be deceptive, and he was showing me. He goes, "Look at this over here," and he goes, "What's it look like?" I go, "That looks like it's moving." And you're looking at it, you're perfectly still, and this thing's whatever it was on the road was moving. And then you look at it with the night vision, and it was like a plant. And what it was, we explained, was it's the imager kind of reassessing what it's looking at, and it keeps reshaping it.
Especially if it's further away.
Yeah, and for those of you who have never picked up a thermal imager, like it will play games with you. You'll think you're looking at a Bigfoot, a bear, whatever your imagination makes up. Like structures do not look the same on a therm as they do with just looking at it and with a night vision, for example.
Well, yeah, I would say if you don't want to have your eyes messed with or freaked out, use a night vision.
Mm-hmm.
But at least, because I remember when I got that thermal, I was new to the thermals, and I was like, I couldn't see it. I mean, obviously, if I went back and had that experience over again, but I had experience, I would definitely see it. But if you don't know how to use them that well, then yeah, they'll mess with you, and you'll not know what you're doing, like you said. Things are just weird, man.
Mm-hmm. And you're also talking about a $500 therm versus a couple grand. That'll clear it up for you. You can I got to look through one that was very, very expensive, and it's like a world of difference.
They're so nice.
Yeah.
But so Jonathan, thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been great. We need to get out in the forest again.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I'm always down. It comes down to time for me, but yeah, definitely. Next time we have an opportunity, we need to get out together.
If we get out together, going in the forest, that place in SoCal we can go to, but we got to be careful because I went there on my way out of town, and the road where the gate is to go up the mountain is really bad. So we'll have to figure something out. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm down.
It is what it is. Again, thank you, Jonathan, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks to you guys. Thanks to the work you guys all do. And thanks for having me on, man. You guys keep up the good work.
We're trying, man. Thank you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've been the Bluff Creek Project Podcast on with Jonathan Easley. And until next time, good night.